How Long Gone, live from beautiful New York City. Them Jeans still in the building, a shell of the man that we know and love after 2 days of activating. Let's give a kind of a wellness check for the listeners.
A shell. I feel good now. Because of these blackout curtains at the lovely Carlisle.
You be sleeping?
I be sleeping, man.
TJ
just
be
like
sleep?
Too much.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. The blackout curtain is a gift and a curse depending on what you're trying to do.
How you're trying to make your way in this world, in this one life that we get.
I'm sure the blackout curtains were really helpful at 2:30 a.m. on Tuesday night after our show, but maybe not so helpful at kind of 10 a.m. on a Thursday when we have to record.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The blackout curtains are a blessing or a curse, completely dependent on how much cocaine that you did the day before.
Exactly. So we had our show at the Carlisle on Tuesday night. It was a pleasure. Thank you to obviously Stevie and Georgie and the whole Purple team and the Carlisle, but also for our good sport guests.
Will Welch,
Jacob Gallagher, Will Welch,
Nomi Fry, Bryn,
the whole squad kind of came up and helped us out, and it was a for us by us situation. I chose to leave around 11 p.m., go upstairs, spend $200 on a small room service dinner for two, and then Jason kind of continued the party in his lavish suite until about 3. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, nice wordplay. A dinner for 2 and a dinner until 3. But my dinner was more of Bud Lights.
Yeah, now
Bud Lights and Tito's, powered by Tito's.
Powered by Tito's. Jason's a high-low cat, so you're telling me that after partaking in some illegal substances, you were so hard up for liquor that you called downstairs, you called room service at the Carlisle and asked for a 12-pack of Bud Light?
That's right.
Okay.
Room service may have come to the room. Yeah. The only difference is when Post Malone gets the alcohol delivered, somebody else signs for it and handles it. He doesn't have to look anyone in the eye, whereas I have to look at the exact dollar amount of how many hundreds of dollars a $9 12-pack of Bud Light costs in this fake world I'm living in.
I don't want to put you on the spot here, but at 76th and Madison, behind those hallowed, between those hallowed walls, how much is a 12-pack of Bud Light going for? Do you remember? Because I kind of need you to remember.
It was like $200.
$200 for what exactly?
For 12 Bud Lights. Like something I could go to Key Foods and buy for maybe under $10.
Oh, hold on. I thought maybe you had gotten an additional, you'd gotten something else, maybe a little snack, maybe a late night Caesar.
We got an additional we just got some of those classic Carlisle bar snacks, some chips and some of those cheese, the wheat thin XL as we were talking about earlier.
Wheat thin XL cheese flavor.
Okay,
so you got
we definitely
some bar
had
snacks.
those. We had like 2 big buckets full of those, which are still sitting in my kitchenette suite right now. Getting staler by the day.
Did you get the nuts? Because if you have the nuts, I'd love for you to kind of messenger those downtown to me.
No nuts,
because that's one of the best nut mixes in the world. Is at the Carlisle.
Even you're okay with the barbecue flavor?
It's strange, but because it's cut with some sweetness, it works for me.
You typically don't play in the seas of mesquite.
The mesquite. No, and the other thing is the Carlisle has so many great bathrooms with nice hand soap available for me to kind of wash down doctor style after I touch barbecue, that it's not really a problem, and it does border on
sterilized.
It does border on I need a shower territory, as you know, but I'm able to kind of resist that.
Fellas, you ever eat a bag of nuts so loud you have to shower after? Is kind of what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. All right, so you spent $200 on a 12-pack of Bud Light. You woke up yesterday, and then yesterday we had a full day of. You didn't have a full day of action, but you did have to come back downtown because you were DJing the opening of the new Sporty and Rich lifestyle experience on Green Street in beautiful Soho.
That's right. It was the first time I went downtown this entire trip. Took the subway, and I'm absolutely uptown pilled now. I don't see how you people live in this cesspool known as anything below 75th Street. It's disgusting. It makes me sick to my stomach. Just constantly dodging the feces all over. I feel like I'm back home in Hollywood.
I know it does. I understand.
What's the point?
I understand that, but I'm glad that you were able to hit the cobblestone to bless us on the decks, and I feel like I've seen you DJ a lot in our relationship, and I feel like some of your best work is done when really hungover. I feel like you're looser. You're having more fun. We're all having more fun.
Right. All bets are off. I'm betting with funny money. None of this is real. None of this matters. You guys are just lucky that I'm here physically, let alone producing audio at all.
Yeah, Jason's on the ones and twos, enjoying a nice thick piece of bread and butter that Chef Flynn McGarry has laid out on the table.
Schlog like
drinking an orange juice. I mean, just having. Honestly, you were having the time of your life, and it made me feel
hanging out
good.
with babies.
Yeah, Matt Goldman and brought his baby. There's a great photo of you, Matt Goldman, and the baby on BFA.
Yeah, I took some videos. Well, follow me on Reels. But there was some sweet irony of like me DJing, the wellness mecca of the tri-state area, while having nothing going on inside of my body.
No.
But luckily my brain is full of wellness, as said by my dope tunes that you heard.
But yeah, it was a well-attended activation, but Oberg has been getting, I mean, the streets are ablaze.
She's getting How Long Gone level press.
There's a New York Times profile. There's a GQ profile. I'm sure there's a handful of other things rolling out, but all joking aside, very, very happy for her. The store's like pretty amazing. And her revenues reported at $30 million a year. So I'm also deeply jealous. And those Birkins she's paying for herself.
That's right.
And that's something I can't say for most of you hoes. So let's celebrate that when we can.
Hair and nails, she pays for that herself. Car note. That's all her.
There might be a couple cars.
Independent.
After I stopped by the Sporty Rich activation to check in on Jason, make sure he was still there, see Flynn, see Oberg, see the rest of the squad. There was a lot of similar faces from the Carlisle, which was nice. 2 day in a row.
Crossover. Felt like we were in Ibiza or something like that.
It did feel like
here we go again.
I kind of crossed the I crossed the picket line, which for me is the Williamsburg Bridge, and did. Oh mate! I went to Brooklyn to celebrate Nordstrom and Stone Island, and it was at a new-ish. I guess it's not that new, but a hot spot called Bernie's, a place I've never been before.
I can't get a table there.
I had a delicious veggie burger. The Caesar salad was amazing. Had a mozzarella stick that was delicious. It was very good. It was kind of what I was craving. But I was surrounded by streetwear goons, which was kind of a nice throwback. Saw a lot of people. Friend of the show Dizza was in the building because he's in the Stone Island mob.
Yeah. So I guess that means you're kind of in the Stone Island mob as well, Chris, because you didn't. This was an elective appearance, right?
Yeah, this wasn't paid. But
you weren't paid to walk through.
But I will say the attention to detail. I just want to point this out because it was very cool. They had the tablecloths on all the tables were made out of Stone Island fabric, the famous proprietary Stone Island fabric, which is obviously waterproof, which works very well for any spills. Which
what
I thought
a lovely
was
touch.
Which I thought was a very clever touch. But yeah, I was out there a little later than I wanted to, talking to the broskies.
For Nordstrom's, spare no expense.
You can't spare any expense. But yeah, it was. I actually had a really good time.
I had a good time. I like the duality of these fashion events. I'm at the girls and the gays and the sporty and the rich and the famous and the healthy and the hot crowd, and then you're at the, maybe not schlubbier, but not, you know what I mean? I just think that's funny. Considering I'm a schlub and you're a sober health and fitness guy. I got paid and you didn't. There's a sea change happening, is what it feels like.
A lot of the pants that Stone Island makes are luckily elastic waist, so it kind of allows the wearer to relax into it. So I see what you mean. But I think what you're forgetting here, Jason, is that I was able to attend both events. That's because that's what you have to do when you're in demand. You kind of got to tap in.
Get you a man who can flip fuck, who's verse.
Exactly. I'm a verse top when it comes to parties. But it did take forever to get there, and it reminded me that I just couldn't take the train. It didn't make sense, but taking the train is truly the only way to get around. I just can't sit in traffic. It makes me fucking insane. Makes me insane.
I don't mind it.
I cannot. I like it. Really makes me crazy.
If I pay my hard-earned like $42 to drive 0.8 miles, I am air conditioning's on. I'm drinking the fucking water. I'm not looking outside at all. I'm just like on my phone. I'm enjoying myself. I'm making a meal out of it.
I get that. I totally get that. And I think I see both sides.
Got my shoes up on the dash.
I know you be
balls and change hanging out.
You got the balls hitting the leather. We do have a guest today. And we're talking to a legend, an OG, the artist Geoff McFetridge, who I mean we've all been fans of and seen for years and years.
Yeah.
He has done. I mean, he's done everything from the titles in Spike Jonze movies and the Virgin Suicides to the Milk Fed logo to Nike, Apple, et cetera, et cetera. He's also Canadian, which I didn't know.
The juice place in Atwater.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a Calgary Flamer.
I didn't know this, but he was the way he met Spike Jonze. He was the art director of Grand Royal, which was a cult Beastie Boys magazine.
Yeah.
That like is very collectible now, which I didn't realize he was involved with. But there's a new documentary about Geoff. It's called Geoff McFetridge: Drawing a Life. I think it's coming out soon, and is directed by a man named Dan Covert. But thank you to friend of the show, Bill Powers, the gallerist, for putting this together. I'm psyched to go to Gatwater and talk to Geoff.
Yeah, as a fellow Atwater artist, of course, me working in the boomerang medium, and Geoff kind of with the pen and the pad. It'll be sort of a pitcher's duel as to who has, it's kind of like ultimate fighting, like. I'm jujitsu. He's taekwondo.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything. It could go either way.
I hear both. I mean, I want to find out also if I think it'll be nice to see who's got the bigger. I think we're going to pull out the credit card statements and kind of see who's spent more money at Proof Bakery. Just kind of see, because Geoff has a family, so he might be buying extra croissants for the kids.
Sure,
you know what I mean. But you have dogs, and I don't know what you're buying. They might have treats in there. I don't know what it looks like.
Hey, I don't go to Proof anymore. They're mean now.
Let's go to We don't like employee owned businesses. Let's give Geoff a call.
They don't serve breeders there. Let's give him a Zoom.
Geoff, do you have headphones? I'm sure you've made some in your time.
Yeah, let me get some. Let me grab a collab.
Can you? They don't have to be. Yeah, let me grab the beats. Just give me 1 second. These came out in 2011. Actually,
It's actually the only non-collab electronic object in my studio. I'm just going to do that to be modest.
Sure.
Yeah, I like the modesty. It's nice to be modest.
Make you feel like a regular human every once in a while.
Yeah, I'll just put on my audiophile quality headphones.
Oh,
Geoff McFetridge, thank you for joining us. Geoff is wearing headphones that make me think he has kind of a Japanese style listening room in his house. Is that true? Are you an audiophile, Geoff?
It's true. Yeah, I'm not.
Okay.
I got some audio stuff though. I don't even want to talk about it. That's like embarrassing.
What do you mean? This is a safe space, bro.
It's not embarrassing, Geoff. You've worked hard, and if you want to spend your money on a $20,000 preamp, that's on you, bro.
Yeah.
The slippery slope was I did the Grand Royal turntable poster.
Yeah.
For Grand Royal magazine. So it was like I didn't intend to be into turntables. So
okay.
I met and photographed every rare historic turntable in Southern California with a friend. And so I ended up with this beautiful VPI turntable. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm going to get an amp. And then I ended up with this just simple Marantz salts. It escalates.
But that's the best reason I've ever heard to get into it is that you had access to the absolute best. And by the end of the process, you were just like, all right, fuck it. I got to get one of these.
Yeah, no, I just sort of chanced into it. And it is, and it's it was instead of waiting, it was fast forward. Because it's if you have a Technics turntable, you're eventually going to be wait, what's a grown-up turntable?
Sure, of course. There's got to be there's always something better, and that's a big part of adulthood is making as much money as you can to always buy the thing that's better. It's a little bit of a tail chase, but that's really where we're at. You know what I mean? The older I get,
or the purpose of adulthood is to carefully not do that.
Okay, well,
You know?
okay.
We haven't got to that page of the book yet, Geoff.
Okay, all right, Geoff, you're a little older than us.
I've heard that's the later. I've heard that's the later pages when you are like, I'm getting rid of all the turntables and vintage cars.
Oh, okay. When you go into unload mode because
Yes.
you're enlightened and you don't need that crap anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't need it, but why get rid of it? What are you going to do with it?
this is
Give it to people who are lesser.
sell it to like the young collector mode dudes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. There's always somebody that wants it more than you.
Yeah.
is the reality.
Yeah.
Especially if you've had it for a little while.
But
What
then
else,
when you sell it to that young collector, what do you use that money with? Do you donate it to the Red Cross?
I know it's true.
Get out of
no,
here.
he's got kids in private school and shit, Jason. We don't even understand what this guy's dealing with. This guy's got bills.
Yeah, you're raising a horse girl, right? That shit ain't cheap.
Wow, how do you know that?
Instagram.
Oh no, is your daughter? Is your daughter an equestrian?
My daughter is an equestrian. Yes.
Oh, Geoff.
This is daughter number 2. I know, dude.
Jeff, you better get off. You
Hardcore.
better get off the phone with us right now and start painting because that shit ain't cheap. So I don't know how. What's your,
Yeah, sell one of those Rimowas while we're chatting.
now, when this happened, is this something that maybe you and your wife were into, or did she just discover it on her own, and you guys have just been able to like encourage her, and she loves it?
Daddy, what's the most expensive thing we can do?
Yeah, Daddy, I like yachts. Like it's like you buy a children's book, like E is for boat, and you go and buy a yacht, the next day.
What's Y for?
H is for horse. Well, there used to be these pony rides in Griffith Park, and it's like a terrible story, actually. That's a really interesting story that it's recently closed down.
Mhm.
And it's kind of controversial. But it's sort of like if you could tell the story of Los Angeles by the story of the pony rides disappearing in Griffith Park.
I didn't know they disappeared. That's like a thing that I've seen since I started coming to LA. I feel like it's a pretty like well known. So is this like a animal rights issue, or was it like some weird government kind of inside baseball?
Is it a Freemason thing?
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
I love a conspiracy, but there were people that were talking about it, about like animal rights, but it wasn't people from within like the horse community.
Mhm.
So it's like, they were talking about these ponies not being taken care of. And I think like, ponies are like a complicated thing. Like ponies actually like working sort of, and they like being all together.
Huh.
So there's a lot of things about the ponies. But there were people that were just like, get rid of all, animals work for money or something.
Sure.
And then also the park, I don't know what's going on with Griffith Park, but they're trying to they're just trying to expand the zoo. Like Griffith Park is this amazing resource in Los Angeles, and it's meant to be wilderness.
Yeah.
But it's there's always pressures on it. So this pony rides, which was really cute, and tons of kids like my daughters learned to ride or learn to love horses.
Okay. That's like the original that's the original experience.
Yeah. And so now it's sort of gone. Just like the public pool across the way is now closed.
Mhm.
So anyway, I mean, it's sort of an interesting story, but that was the gateway. And then my wife rode when she was a kid. So
Okay.
but it is also like, your kids, like when you have kids, inevitably they're going to be into something. So like, are you going to be in a gym?
Let's hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
Best case scenario.
Or,
Hopefully it's not leaving Reddit comments.
Yeah. Well, there's that. That's a bonus. That's like mandatory.
Yeah.
They could be like doing like first person shooter games or
Yeah. She sounds like she's having more fun.
Yeah.
So but I guess I've always wondered about this because equestrian is something that is a little out of my purview. But if you're really into this and you're doing it, how old is she? Is she like 11, 12?
She's my younger daughter's 14.
Damn. All right. Damn. Jeff's got real kids, adult kids. All right. So she's 14.
Yeah.
So how much time is like allotted? Is this like the main activity outside of school, basically?
Yeah. She rides every day.
Okay.
She rides every day.
Oh, wow. Okay. Shit.
Every day, damn.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Okay. And is there a goal? Is this looked at as a hobby, or is this like something that she's like, I want to take this as far as I can go?
The goal is to liquidate the Wells Fargo checking.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, we're just it's just like go until it's just totally bone dry, and you just like
You're like, Dad, have you heard of this brand Hermes? They make beautiful saddles. I don't know.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like this type of stuff, like, I mean, talk to parents who have their kids in hockey. I mean, I grew up in Canada, and so kids played hockey, and hockey is like, it's no joke expense wise, and but it's really the time thing. So it's like we spend time, like when we, I just dropped her off at the barn. She's at the barn. She'll be there all morning. And
is that her podcast studio?
Pardon me?
Exactly.
Sounds like the name of her podcast studio.
The barn.
Coming live from the barn.
Yeah, it does feel live from the barn. Very much so. All right, so you drop her off at the barn.
Okay, so you just dropped her off at the barn.
And she'll be there all day. So for us, it's like, it's like you spend time in like a gymnasium somewhere, or but yes, it is ridiculous.
Lake.
I mean, I could have a beach house, or I could have daughters that know how to jump a horse. So
I mean,
when you put it that way,
don't put it that way.
Yeah, that kind of
never put it that way. That's like I just released like my internal monologue.
Whatever you do, do not do that. I didn't know you were from Canada actually until we were getting ready for this, and we're friends of North America's Hat, so it's nice to have another Canadian join us. But Calgary is kind of one of the undiscovered gems and it's funny that your daughters have become equestrians, because Calgary is mainly known for the Stampede. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I come from a very horsey place, but like I am not the horsey person in the family. It's like more than 1 million people. Like as the price of oil per barrel goes up, the population goes up. So I think where we're at now, it's probably like right around 1 million people.
Okay.
So it's like, it's like I guess that's like I'm from like a small town sort of.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Canada goes, you could go prairie vibes, and then it's really small. But Calgary's at least something people recognize. There's a hockey team, and it is known for the oil export. It's the Dallas of Canada or whatever.
Well, I would say Edmonton is more so.
Oh, I guess that's true. It's in the name.
Whoa.
But that's where the hill people oil live, though,
What's up with Edmonton, Geoff? You been there?
I lived in Edmonton for a while.
What?
Yeah.
I prefer Calgary to Edmonton much more. No offense to my Edmontoners.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're really different. There's like it's like Canada's amazing. Like the space between, like, road tripping in America.
Yeah.
Is totally different. Like, you're like this town, the little town, like mountain town, and then and in Canada it's like town, huge pause, town, nothing.
Yeah, no.
11 hours of dirt.
Yeah, like I actually grew up in St. Albert, which is outside of Edmonton, like a really tiny town.
Okay.
So there's aspects of my childhood that are like really like a kid's book where you play in a pond and real, like in the trees picking berries all afternoon. And, stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, and even to me, like, it's like, wait, is that like a dream? Like I would take the train to visit my grandparents, like alone, and it would be like a train, like
the only thing in your Rimowa is a teddy bear.
Not a Rimowa vibe, more like a carpet bag, like satchel.
Okay, he's going satchel with the tattered teddy bear dragging the ground.
Yes, exactly. You made the picture.
A Bodhi scarf wrapped around a small stick hung over your shoulder, something like that.
Yeah, like Paddington. Yeah. Like I'm like I was Paddington when I was
with just a few provisions for the train ride, to make it through. A block of cheese, maybe some bread,
a few cans of sardines, some really good butter. That's probably about it.
No, it was like bannock, a piece of bannock and jerk, and like bison jerky.
Bannock? What is bannock?
What is bannock?
Bannock? You don't know what bannock?
That sounds like the last name of one of your hockey players.
Bannock is like this like doughy, like native like bread that you like cook on the fire. It was, I guess maybe that's something.
This sounds delicious.
Doughy native bread.
Yeah,
it's
this
delicious,
sounds good. Yeah. What is the?
Yeah, it's like a fun camping thing to do.
What can you compare it to for maybe?
Sounds like a blast.
A bread we would recognize.
Just pizza dough, or like, I mean, it's just like flour and water, and I don't know, like
the most simple.
Oh, got it.
Damn. Okay. So you would take the train, but how long was this train ride? Like, was this like an overnight train, or was this a couple hours?
This would be, I guess the story that comes to mind is like being put on the train by my parents, and they would seat me next to like a native guy who would, like, because there were always like native guys like traveling the train, and they were always like, they were these very sweet, they would like basically like take care of you.
Yeah.
But that seems kind of crazy now,
Yeah.
and
So wait, sorry to interrupt. When you say a native guy, could you explain that exactly to our listeners who might not be aware?
Like a native Canadian,
right?
Like a Blackfoot Indian,
right? Okay.
You know, like that's who. And I think now in retrospect, like maybe they thought because I looked like I had long black hair, and you know, maybe they thought
you
like
are giving native-esque.
Yeah, yeah, half Chinese is like basically you're like a Beringian, you know, like I came the long way around.
Sure,
but
sure,
you know, same type of thing.
Like I recognize this guy.
Your parents plop you down next to a native elder, and you go, "Are you my new daddy?" mode, and then they look after you. Well, make sure you have 3 square meals a day.
Well, it's like I don't know how it's like probably it's like a 3-hour drive. So on the train, it's like longer, you know?
Yeah.
But like this is like a very specific moment. Seated next to this guy, I was like probably 9 or 10, maybe. And then like, so this is the memory I have. And then there's like a blizzard. And I remember being on the train and it stops because it's just on the open prairie, and just being on this train. And I like it's like one of my early memories. And like it seems like it's out of like another century. But being on this train, it's starting to get cold, and the tracks are covered in snow. And I'm with this guy who's like, you know, it's just like it's sort of an amazing, like there's aspects. It's sort of like when I started making art, there weren't computers.
Sure.
It's sort of like
sure.
You know what I mean? Like it's like this sort of like, wait, what? Like when I moved to LA, there were no cell phones.
Yeah.
Speaking of computers, this sounds like you are going to be met with an Oregon Trail like fate.
Yes.
And you're like, I'm not on. You're eating jerky and your weird breads. Morale is low. Dysentery's kicking in.
Exactly. You can't ford the river because it's frozen.
Yeah, exactly. We are too late to pass. Yeah. No, I don't know what happened, how we got out of it.
Sometimes I think about how, you know, we're that generation of, you know, we know what life was like before the internet. But you were really kind of like a great example of getting a healthy dose of life pre-digital age, and now, you know, doing a good job adapting to the current, you know, electric computer art kind of world.
Yeah.
Is that something you think about a lot?
I really do. I mean, I think it's like I feel very lucky because it's like you can be like way too early. You know, like I think like the computers showed up. Like for me, like I was making things as a kid, and then once the computer came, like you could really operate. Like for me, it was like it meant like, oh, I can just have a studio that's just me. That was because of the computer. You know, stuff like that. So like the like a generation just before me would be like, I need these resources to send stuff to press or sort of like produce things, like because I was into like making stuff, like I was really into like sort of doing design as well as making art. But so like this sort of like the design aspect of it could be really like whatever I wanted. Like I didn't have to be like, oh, I need these clients and all these resources, you know, because of the computer just sort of like skipped a lot of stuff.
The idea of laying out a magazine, like designing a magazine without a computer, I think for a lot of our listeners is a very tough thing to wrap their head around. Does that mean that you just had a lot of nice X-Acto knives and you were just kind of on the drafting table, or walk us through an issue, you know, like what does that actually look like?
I mean, I didn't do, like, by the time I made magazines, it was digital. So I'm both people, but at the same time, like when I did my first snowboards, like the first snowboard I made was a piece of paper, like a board the size of a snowboard, you know. Like it was like, I'm making a snowboard.
I don't know why that makes total sense, but for some reason it's really funny.
Because back then, what else would it be?
The idea of you like crawling around on the floor trying to get from the bottom to the top with some, you know, colored pencils.
Yeah, I drew the thing, and then you go like, well, then how is it colored? And so you do these layers on it.
Wow.
And you tell the printer like, this is going to be this color, this is going to be this color. And you spec it out, and that's production ready art. So like I'm formed by this idea that my first art making was sort of like production ready art.
Yeah.
So and then so there was production art, and then there's art, FPO art, for position only. Yeah. So for position only is like where you make something and you make notes on it, and you'll say like print this, and then the printer takes it and makes all those separations and prints it. And so, but there's these stages. So like when you make the production art, it has to be perfect. Like that's going to go.
Yeah,
that's Sports Illustrated whatever.
That's it.
Yeah, your cartoon in Playboy magazine or whatever. All these things are in the entire world was made by things that were this high consequence, which I view as like a type of art making. Right?
Totally. No,
it has no value. Like people would take Milton Glazer's production art that he sent for an album cover and throw it out. Like that was it. It was like, okay, we took a photo of it.
We got what we needed. We did what we had to do with this, and now we're gonna. It's clutter.
Yeah.
That's kind of insane. That's kind of insane when you think about that.
Yeah, the second year I made snowboards, I was like, I'm gonna do this with my computer, which was when I sent. So it was insane. Like you'd do preview mode in Illustrator, and I'd go for dinner and come back, and it would then show me. Like it was so brutal. And then when I sent it to press, the people who were in Vermont or something that were making the snowboards, they were like, no one's ever done this before. You've crashed our machines. It's not possible.
Oh, so you were basically like early because you had a computer and you're like, guys, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah.
You sent them the files and they're like, Chief, we don't really know how to handle this.
Yeah. They're like, like you could do one part of the snowboard, but like since the entire thing was a graphic, like a skateboard, which was also really unusual. People weren't doing, people would do like, there was a logo on the tail. Right. There was like a, you know what I mean?
So that means like the actual like literal file size was a scale snowboard, and computers back then did not handle, like a 6 foot long JPEG.
No.
It would just crash their shit.
Yeah, it was bombed.
Damn, that's kind of cool actually.
Yeah, it crashed their shit, which is like now, obviously it was probably like 4 megabytes.
It wasn't actually that big. We didn't have to mail the hard drive or anything, but it was a different time.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, there was many times in my the time I was born into, like when I was doing titles and I'm with the guy and we're doing optical titles. Like you can hear this banging upstairs, and he's like, "Yeah, they're building the digital studio upstairs." And I'm working with him on an Oxbury, which is like how they shot like the titles. Like, I mean, the guy probably shot the Gone with the Wind titles, and you shoot it with a camera. It's a similar spirit as like production ready art.
So you're saying you're saying when you're doing titles for a movie, you're building them and then they're shooting them. There's not a computer element of it. It's all physical, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like if you look at Buffalo 66, the beginning of Buffalo 66, it's all opticals that he did because it's like cool. Okay, and around that time, like when I did Virgin Suicides or Buffalo, like that sort of time in the whenever that was, like 2000s. That was the last days of optical printing for titles. Like they were still doing it. Like if you look at movies and they look good, like they have that like, oh, this looks like like it has like that texture and a little jitter and that was at the same time. So I guess it's just a wave of like digital.
Is that
stuff happening
title wise? Is that something that some filmmakers still do because they like fetishize it and it's cool?
Yes, like Quentin Tarantino. Like you see it when you notice. If you care and you watch, you'll see it all the time. Like Quentin Tarantino or Wes Anderson or they're doing optical printing.
Yeah, I feel like you can kind of you can kind of figure out who's going to be doing that and who's not.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's the most Wes Anderson thing of all time to do.
Yeah, and so then we have to go like, do we care? Like, do we care about things done? And I think it's like an interesting, I think it's interesting. Like, I don't think like digital stuff is fine. Like I use like digital tools all the time. Like I use all these different tools, like I'm not like a steampunk, but I do love like
I just want to make it very clear. I'm not a steampunk, but I will build some shit. Okay.
I will wear a top hat with a clock in it, but I wear it with something very contemporary, a Balenciaga buff.
I mix.
I mean, I guess it's like they're really interesting art making tools. Like it's the same way as like artists use like tools of fabrication. Like if you're Donald Judd, you're like, wait, the guys that make the vents in my building are artists.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible, And I think like commercial art, there's a lot of art, like the way typists set optical printing. Like I would watch like an art film that was all done with optical printing,
Yeah.
And I think that there are these. I think it's like understanding like tools is really important. Like mechanical sort of creativity is like super, I think, interesting. And I think like it's using those with like concept, conceptual thinking is like really what I'm like interested in.
I mean, I feel like this is the most exposure I've had to this kind of conversation is like like when people were mad that Jürgen Teller started shooting digital.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't believe he made, and it's like, the guy's done it long enough. He deserves to be able to experiment with something new.
Yeah.
Like it might change the way something feels to you, but I feel like it might, like, if you don't know, do you not notice? Is what I'm saying. If he wasn't talking about it, if he wasn't like, yeah, shut all this shit with my iPhone, fuck you, like, would we actually know? Like, maybe, but most people wouldn't,
Yeah.
It's about like, if you like someone's work, you have to trust their process, to me. Like, because with photography especially, it's not about equipment, it's about the vision.
Yeah.
And the relationship to the subject, But I feel like that discussion was so it's still hotly debated, because and like with all this stuff, there's a cost associated with it. Like, we've gotten to the point where digital is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So you're asking people to pay more or spend more to do it the old way, which seems counterintuitive to a lot of people, I think.
No, and I think that's like a perfect example of like, we're in like a very good place, I think, now with photography, where you can just do whatever you want. Like, it's sort of like a boring conversation, and that's what you sort of want it to be, because like I think there was the time when people were like, when they saw all the developers like liquidating their equipment, like everything was closing, you couldn't get film and all that stuff. Like, that's when becomes like that conversation gets really like, ugh, like. But now it's sort of nice because there's both.
No, totally.
And I think that losing like a knowledge is like sort of terrifying, or losing resources for photographers.
I just think that there is a feeling, like you're saying. There's like a way, like the way you're describing those, the optical, like, it's like you feel it and you see it, and even if you don't know what you're seeing, you like it.
You
don't know why you like it, but you like it.
Yeah, no. When you see, like, I see films and it's like they redo the titles because they've reformatted or something, and it's like, ooh, because it's super crisp and like over 35 mil. It's like
of course. Like, no. I mean, I just think that's I being able to do both is the kind of the only way to move forward. I feel like
Yeah, and get on to better.
The snowboarding thing is interesting because I feel like a lot of your generation, like artists, like got like a lot of opportunities from skateboarding and snowboarding, like graphic wise, like that. And most of the stuff you were doing, was it for Burton?
It was for Barfoot. I did work for Burton later, but there was this company called Barfoot, which is like, sounds like.
Hold on, Barfoot, Barfoot.
Yes. It was a guy named Chuck Barfoot. He was like a Santa Barbara guy. So Tom Sims, Chuck Barfoot, like they're these.
Okay.
He started. He was like, he was maybe too early, but he was like an early days snowboard guy.
Back when it was just pirates and vagabonds kind of vibe.
Yes, it was very vagabondy. It was like.
Aspen wasn't settled yet. There wasn't a kith there, so it was kind of choose your own adventure. It's tough.
There wasn't a kith. No, there was. It was like snowboarding was banned.
Yeah.
At most ski resorts.
Yeah. Well, this is top of mind for me because I recently watched the Shaun White documentary on HBO, which is actually quite good. Uh-huh. And I didn't know. I was honestly, I didn't really know much about him, and it was pretty interesting. But there was a big portion, and they had like news footage of like guys that work at the ski, like at the mountain, basically being like, we got to get these snowboarders the fuck out of here. Like, we got to ban these guys. This is causing a fucking problem. And then, of course, snowboarding booms, but I feel like now it's like skiing is cool again.
Yes.
And snowboarding isn't quite as cool. Is that just like the way it works with every trend?
Yeah, I guess it does. I mean, I guess it's, because if you think early days of snowboarding, when they were talking about get these guys, it was like, snowboarding was like, it came out of, I guess, a little bit of, like, there were Santa Barbara guys, so it came out of surf culture, and it was like homemade.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
It's weird.
I didn't know it was a Santa Barbara.
Yeah,
thing.
so that
very weird.
And I mean in Vermont, Chuck Burton. But your snowboards were like really homemade. Mm-hmm. So if you think about that, like, oh wait, when something's like homemade and you're wearing Sorels and you're sort of like, you know what I mean? And then for us, we were all like skaters, so like it was like, wait, nobody's making money off this. Get them off the mountain. Like, not like the ski patrol weren't like thinking like capitalists, but like the culture at large was sort of like, wait, there's no room for this, you know?
Yeah.
But then once it becomes, it becomes like, oh, wait, we can like double the amount of people that want to come to the mountain. It sort of changed.
Yeah. And it seems more dangerous, but it's also like, I think that's because people are choosing to do tricks, you know, versus just like going fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's all pretty fucking dangerous.
Yeah, it's all fucking dangerous. I mean, it's like whoever, like, luckily, like skiing exists already. Like, no, you couldn't start a ski hill now. Like, seriously? Like, it's like, it is really, you know, like there's rocks everywhere and there's, you know, like,
yeah, it's terrifying.
You know, it's truly like, but yeah, I mean, I think skiing, like the reality is like skiing, like both are good, but like skiing skiing changed because of snowboarding. So what we have in skiing now.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Is like we stole a lot of really good, like the turn shapes and like the sort of the spirit of a lot of snowboarding became like went into skiing where like shape skis came about after, like, so
interesting
skis with big side cut and fatter skis. So there's all this stuff that skiing learned from snowboarding. So skiing is sort of, it's easier and you sort of have best of both worlds because you can like walk around, you know, you're not like
sure.
And, strapped to your desk.
Yeah, you're not like
because you're a big skier, right?
I love skiing, yeah.
But I feel like you're like an athlete and you're a runner too, aren't you?
I have a lot of hobbies, but yes. I run and I love skiing.
My man. Okay, so how do you? So you have a lot of hobbies,
activities.
Let's run down. Let's kind of run down. Are they physical in nature most of the time, or is it like brain exercises, puzzles? Like what are we?
What are you running from, Jeffrey?
Completely ignore the brain. No brain day.
Okay.
No brain day. Legs only.
Yeah. So you have leg day, chest day, never brain day.
That's cool.
Yeah, never brain day. I don't have chest day either. Actually, it's just all legs.
Jason doesn't have chest day either. You guys have something in common.
I also don't have leg day, but I do a lot of brain stuff.
Yeah, Jason's big on brain stuff.
I guess speaking of the evolution of the way we all make money doing, you know, various forms of art, do you consider yourself now to be an influencer in so many ways?
No. But I guess I did, like, I mean, I transitioned, like, another thing of like the digital transition, like, I can say like Instagram really did change my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like in a positive way. Like my friend Eric Shatsky, he's like, there's this thing called Instagram and it was really early days. And I just used it to communicate with like 5 friends of like, we went to the park today, you know? But like it really did, like on like the activities thing or drawing, you know, like, like the reality is like my brain day is like drawing every day. So what I could share, like my influencer thing would be sharing little tiny drawings in my sketchbook that no one ever sees. And then a little bit like I went like skiing or skating or, you know, like it does show like actually what I spend tons of time doing, you know?
Yeah.
I don't really put my family on there just because it feels like, well, this feels sort of sketchy.
Yeah. For sure.
I don't put like family photos or whatever, but I've always liked this idea. Like I've done, like in the past, I've like done talks. Like if I get asked to go to a college, like I'll do a talk and I'll just try to explain my process or I'll agree to do interviews, which for me is like, it's like, well, of course you would, but it's not really. Like in a lot of ways, it's like uncomfortable, right? Like it's uncomfortable to have to articulate yourself or have someone come into your studio and photograph you working. And it's sort of easy to say no to that stuff. And I've always felt like, nah, don't. Just because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean like just try, like you'll get better at it or you'll get comfortable or like work it out, you know, work a way to have this public conversation. And so when Instagram came about, it was like, oh, well, I can just take a photo of something that shows like some aspect of myself that's like this sort of like, you know, truthful or something.
So you got to be more in control of your public persona. You didn't have to use people who come into your home.
Yeah.
And document it.
In a very like sort of lazy way. But yeah, I think people understood me more and you could see, I basically was just this whole side of my life that not even my friends knew, you know, like, like, cause I had tons of friends that didn't know I skied or what I did. Like, I don't have like a website really, or, no one knew anything I did, like any of the projects unless you were like in my studio, like literally. I mean, there's still like thousands of things in my studio no one has ever seen. And
I mean, most people didn't even know what you looked like.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Could walk past you on the street and not even know that it was you.
No, yeah, absolutely. There was like 5 photos of me on the internet or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've known of you for years, and I haven't seen what you look like until today.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
What's up, bro? I'm Geoff. Cool to meet you.
And I lived in Atwater Village for almost 10 years. You know what I mean? I probably walked past you 5,000 times.
I know, it's crazy, right? And it's funny because when I looked at photos of you guys, and we have never met, I was like, these are guys that have been at the cafe. These are those guys that Mixto. These are the guys at Tacos Via Corona. Like, I just don't know them, you know? But like,
yeah.
Sure, that's absolutely true. But I think the Instagram, using Instagram in that way, especially for artists, is pretty important. But I mean, I think the process is like, it's like going into a studio to watch a band play, record. If you have no business there, it's kind of like, all right, cool. You guys, you guys are killing it. I'm going to head out because it's fucking boring. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm sure that looking at your own process, you're like, yeah, I sketch this shit and then I paint this thing. It's not that compelling to you, but understanding that you need to share it or feeling compelled to share it has worked out, and it's important, I think, now because there's that pressure to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's like, I mean, I think it's transitioning. Like, I think it's like now I feel like, oh man, I'd like to get rid of it or something.
Yeah,
but like, but you still look back at that moment where it's like, I don't have to just like now I do use it more like, oh, there's this show, but I do it less for like little tiny postage stamp like drawings. That was the original magic of it. Like I could share things like no one would ever like really know. Like, yeah, maybe no one knows what I look like, but also like no one ever would see this postage stamp size drawing. And that felt like something
I see what you mean.
That like in the history of people in my position who were like making art, like, so it's like, oh, you have a show, so that's how people see art. That was the first. Or you do commercial projects and it's like, oh, the band decides they liked that logo, so they know that thing you did. Like all these things outside of it's just about that control. And so it's like, this is the first time that it's like, I can just post this little thing. And I think like now that's sort of over.
Yeah. Now
like, I think now we have algorithm, we have, it's like,
now we gotta get you out of that shirt, Geoff. That's how you're gonna get the likes, bro. Let's see that skier's body. You know what I mean? On Maine.
That's kind of what I'm interested in, because when I was talking about before about coming from, the pre-internet era of being an artist, and like back in the day, you would just like, hey, I made this, movie title or this skateboard or this Apple Watch thingy or whatever it is, and you just make it and the company pays you money and you say thank you and that's it. But now when you do it, and we were joking about like headphone collabs earlier, like you can't just like design a pair of headphones and cash your check and say that's it. It's like implied that you're going to do some content on Instagram around the process of you designing it.
Yeah.
It's gonna, it's gonna be a whole thing now, where back then it just didn't exist at all. Do you miss that, or do you kind of like having a little extra step?
Yeah, I mean, I used to like pressure clients to credit me. Like I would do projects like in the past 10 years where I'd be like, I can't believe that they won't even credit me, like in like they send it for awards or something and my name's not on it.
Oh wow.
Like that.
Okay.
And it seems like, wait, that's hard to believe. Like people are gonna hear this and be like, that's
work for hire, baby. They don't give a shit.
Dude. Yeah, they don't
like,
care.
We paid you a lot of money. I mean,
yeah.
I think the thing about, as like Jason said, like you've been doing this for a very long time. We're pretty aware of your career, but like there's like a certain style that you've developed that's pretty recognizable, that I feel like it would be almost weird to not credit. Like it's like, oh, is that a fake? Did you get a fake Geoff to do this, or did you get? You know what I mean? Like, why would you not? But do you think it's just like they want they want it to be like a faceless kind of like, this is what we made, or is it deeper than that?
Well, I think it's like it was still tied into this tradition of like commercial art. Like there was like, it's hard to believe that it was like, oh no, there was this like, and there was this very broad description of art that wasn't like fine art, that was like anything commercial. And so like my sort of career has been about like breaking down that understanding, that it's like, when there was things that I would do where it was like a campaign or like packaging or something that was clearly like what you described, it totally looked like I did it. And that was very deliberate. You know, I was like developing this body of work that was like, no, you can tell I did it. Like but you know, clients would still at that point give me like, okay, this is what like we want it to be like. And I would just sort of ignore it. Cause you know, cause they were still in this old mode where they were like, yeah, we have this brief. But the reality is like briefs are like, shouldn't the artist come up with the brief? You know, and that's like, you know, it's like, that's why you would come to me. And so there's all these things that like over the past like 2 decades have sort of devolved into my benefit. But at the very beginning of it, it was like, here's a brief, show me 5 different things and they look all different and we're not going to credit you. And then we get to the point now where it's like, collabs, right? So it's like, it's just like, make something compelling, make a video about it, talk about it, explain what it's about. Like there's no brief.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're basically doing the same thing, like in a different way, but at the same, you're sort of going, and then there are people doing still pure design that are not getting credited, right? Oh, yeah. There's people like designing packaging, you know, like I have friends who are actual real designers and, you know, they're doing packaging and they don't get any credit unless they put it on social media or something.
And then they'll get in trouble for doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then they get sued. Yeah, cease and desist.
I guess back in the day, you know, those brands, like they consider themselves, you know, if I like some, you know, middle management person at Nike, I am an artist who didn't do what I wanted to do in life, and now I have this job.
Yeah, but
I'm going to be an artist, and my art is hiring Geoff McFetridge to do this thing.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna get a fucking hard on telling him what to do because there's this many zeros on the check.
Yes.
And now it's just like, you just do everything.
Yeah.
Do it.
And then we'll put and then you could sign the bottom of it and we'll have a little party.
Yeah. No, and those previous, there was nothing. Yeah. That is like a dark read on, but that is a sort of reality, I guess, for some of it. But that was also, I would say that was way more in this transitional time, like the really uncomfortable time. Cause now you have like any people that I'm working with, like in collabs are sort of like more like sort of native to the new sort of paradigm of how things are made and this understanding that it's it's like design, art making, marketing, like it's all like one sort of thing. At this point, I think it's maybe we're in our last days of it, but like it is like it has been this viable way for me, like keeping those sort of projects in the mix as well as like art making has been worth it. You know, like I do spend more. I noticed in the past few years, I spend way more time just painting, and I think it's like maybe because those sort of days, like as again, like I'm sort of been early to a lot of this stuff, and I think I've got to reap a lot of benefits of like different aspects as culture sort of turns. Like I'm sort of like, so I do feel like things are turning where it's like maybe it's like. It could be simply described as like we're burned out on collabs, but it's also like I think like culture is sort of changing. Like it's like it's less loud, it's less arresting, it's just less impactful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I definitely like it's been like it's really fun to like work on paintings at the same time I'm working on something that's like basically like a painting, but it's going to be on like a shoe or some sort of product.
One for you, one for them. Well, in the spirit of being in the last days of something. Have you typed in draw this blank in the style of Geoff McFetridge onto Mid-Journey and seen what pops out?
I have not. People have. For when it first hit, people would be like, I made this, and they'd send it to me, which is sort of like demented. Like just the way people send me like, have you seen this guy? And it's someone whose like entire career is based on like like doing art that looks like people. I'm like, why do you send this to me?
No, people love to say that. That's like when they send me Reddit comments about how much people hate me. I'm like, I don't look at this for a reason, so I don't need you to send it to me again. It doesn't work that way. I know.
And do you do that to other people? No.
Absolutely not. I would only send a flattering photo or a glowing review. I'm not going to redistribute bad information if you're my friend. You know what I mean?
I feel the same.
It's crazy.
But I do feel like definitely like AI is going to be very hard on the people who like like I do have careers that are based on like copying me and other people, maybe, you know, that's gonna be AI is gonna be really hard on them because they're like, wait,
that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be hard on all of your sons all across the world.
Yes,
with Adobe accounts.
Yeah.
All the guys with Adobe subscriptions are fucked. Yeah,
it's true. They should discount that starting, pretty soon.
Do you do what is your day-to-day look like? Is it just like I get up and I paint and see what happens, or is it a little more regimented than that?
Oh my God, regimented. I'm very regimented.
You seem like you're a type A ass motherfucker. So what time you get up at 5:30 and cold plunging and shit? What are we doing?
No, I'm really not type A. I'm not a type A guy. But I'm like a non-type A guy, so I know like routine like works well for me. You know what I mean?
Jason and I are big routine guys too. That's a big part of the show.
Yeah.
It throws. Jason was having a tough time on his honeymoon because he's like, I gotta fucking, I can't go to the gym. I don't have my sauna. The food, the food's crazy. Like
it was pure hell.
It's pure hell. But so you have things you do every day though that kind of put you in your zone.
Yeah, I mean, like I joke, like, no, I know you guys like engage in that stuff, and I think, like, I joke, like, we had some friends in town. I was like, the wellness routine may bleed well into the afternoon. You know what I mean? Like, it's it can go like, went for a run, stretched, had like second breakfast, like, which is like like a smoothie. And then you're sort of like into like, do a little work, reply to emails, then you're having lunch. And so it starts, then have like a healthy lunch. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
sure,
like wellness routine.
So you're just living a normal life. Got it. Okay.
Basically.
Yeah, it's a pretty normal life. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I do something every morning. That's like the sort of activities thing. Like, so yeah, depending on my focus, but it'll be most like lately it's been like, it was like really serious cycling for a long, long time. But that sort of varied. Like now I drive my daughter to school in the morning. So I'm like in the car. So I don't want to have a bike. So like more trail running, which I've been doing for a long time as well.
But you're not in the gym. You're an outside workout guy.
No, I've been to a gym. I've been to church twice and I've been to a gym like 3 times.
Wow.
For a while I went to which I know you guys go to the Undefeated gym, right?
I did during COVID. Yeah. Cause it was like the only thing open cause they were breaking the rules.
Okay.
But I love, it's so beautiful. It's such a nice facility.
Yeah. I did one experiment where I went to the gym because I trained, I did Mount Whitney in a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I've always been like just strictly outdoors guy. And I was like, I'm going to train entirely for Whitney indoors in the gym, just as an experiment. Cause I knew like, whatever, like I've done other stuff and it was pretty cool. And then that was it. I was done.
And then
I learned how to like lift weights and
you just did that. Did you just do that for Instagram content? Like, I'm going to do Whitney today. Get ready with me.
Yeah, I didn't put that on Instagram. Like, for example, nobody knows I went to the Undefeated gym. I didn't take any like weird,
Okay.
There was one
That's
photo
smart.
that I did Whitney that my friend took of me at the base, which I was debating, like, I'm not putting it, but I didn't put like a summit photo or
no summit photo. Wow. That is.
Did you hashtag Snow Peak or anything? Like, what are we doing here? Leaving money on the table.
Sponsors. Yeah, you're leaving money on the table.
That's my style. See, that's like, I'm not type A. I definitely am like leave money on the table guy.
Got it.
Okay. If you're in a position to leave money on the table and life is going well, that's the thing. That's a sign of success is how I look at it.
Or is it just being dumb? I don't know.
Well, both. A little bit of both. But,
these are the questions that keep us up at night, Geoff.
I know.
I wanted to talk about your relationship with Spike a little bit, just because I feel like it's so, like, long running.
Yeah.
And I saw that he kind of hosted a screening. And I just, like, how did that relationship start with Grand Royal?
It did. I didn't know him. I started with because he owned Girl and Chocolate Skateboards. So I was doing graphics for them like in the late 90s. But I didn't really meet it. He was like, by that time he was already sort of gone. Like he was making videos and he was like sort of really busy, like sort of his film career was starting. And so strangely, I started working for Sophia when him and Sophia were married. I was working for Girl and Chocolate, and then I did Virgin Suicides, and I was doing stuff for her clothing brand Milk Fed, and I still hadn't met Spike. So because he was like in a different circle, and I was doing stuff for the Beastie Boys, so I'd get in photo stories, then it'd be photos of Spike. And then when he did Being John Malkovich, he like reached out, and like I started working with him then. Mm-hmm. And then I sort of did something for him on every film since, and we became close. And I feel really lucky to have known him. Like, it's only in retrospect you're like, oh wait, that's really lucky to have someone like Spike as like someone you could truly look up to, like the way he operated, like the way he did his career, and then also just like asking him for advice.
No, it's a very enviable career path. Like, it does feel like I think there's some people that are able to do the money stuff and make it look very fun and cool. And I think you're in that boat, and I'm sure that some of that rubbed off. You know what I mean? It's like, I think he's in that boat. Yeah. Like Sophia's in that boat. You know, it's just like, I think some people make it look good. And especially in today's world where we're just like, just constantly hit in the face with people doing stuff for money in a way that feels like extremely clear what the situation is. It's like, I think that there's people that have learned to do it with the right touch, where it's like, I'm going to direct a commercial that's going to be on TV during the Super Bowl, but it's going to be cool and interesting, and I'm going to make it good. Yes. And I think that's like a big thing that we could learn.
Dream come true.
As a society.
Yeah. No, I think it's like really getting to, it's like looking at like a savant at like make exactly that. Like, I'm going to do a commercial. Like, people look back and they're like, oh, this great music video bit, I never saw it. But that is really interesting to watch him do. Like, I worked with him on like a bunch of stuff for Lee Jeans. Yeah. And so like, it's like, that's the hard stuff. Like, for that, you're Spike Jonze and you don't say no to Lee Jeans. But what you know what I mean? Like,
but what do I do? Like, what's the idea? Yeah. Like, what's the concept? Yeah, no, for sure.
How do we make it interesting and compelling, and how does he talk to the client? Like, it's not like he's never like, I hate them, I'm fighting with them, or it's this collaborative positive vibe, which is like what you have to have. Like, now it's like, when I work, like for me, it's like, you work with Apple, like of course you're not going to fight with Apple, but of course Spike wasn't going to fight with the Lee Jeans agency. You know what I mean? Even though they weren't like super, they weren't like super impressive, but like getting to see that, or like how like, Sophia balanced like how she's going to spend time writing, but then she's going to like make a film and do commercials, and she has a brand. And so I like getting to, when she was doing Milk Fed. And so like, getting to see them, really navigate that world was really lucky. And I think now it's like sort of a given. Like, now we live in a time where it's like, oh yeah, like if you're a band, it's like, license the song. Like, of course, Totally. And at the time it would be like, when I would work in animation, and you'd like reach out to a band and be like, are they going to say yes? Like tons of bands would be like, no, even though they were broke, and turn down $60,000 to license their song. They're like,
those days, thank God those days. There's a fine line, don't get me wrong, but thank God those days are over.
Thank God those days are over. I think so. It's sort of that. It's sort of like it's sort of like the film versus digital debate. It's just sort of like nothing comes to this.
This is. I saw there was this big opinion piece this week in The Guardian about Barbie, and they're like, Greta Gerwig was an indie. They basically were killing Greta Gerwig for directing Barbie because she used to be indie. I'm like, what the fuck do you expect people to do?
Yeah.
If you call me and say direct Barbie, you can do whatever you want, you got to do that. Like, there's no world in which you don't do that. I can never understand that, especially in today's society, like where we're at culturally.
Like, no one has time. Like, let her make a mistake. Like, who cares? Like, it's just like, let's just keep going. Like, make more stuff. Like, and that's the way I feel about AI. Like, fine, like just AI, destroy everything. We'll start again. Let's go. Let's let's do better. Let's be the AI. Let's just keep going, and not like those conversations are so like anything. I feel like that gets in the way of like making something, you have to question. Yeah, like you just question it. And I think that's like when your rules, like if you're straight edge and it means there's a lot of stuff you can't do, or you have to start questioning it. And when you have like this sort of ideology of making things, it's like, oh no, it's like a sellout. Like, you have to have that discussion, but question it extra if it means you're not doing something.
I think it's a confidence thing. I think it's about being like what you're saying about Spike. It's like, well, I know I can make this something that I feel good about, so I'm going to do it. Like, there's no downside if you approach it like that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, if you approach it like, I'm going to do the best job so I feel good at the end of the day and everyone's happy, then, like, there's no downside.
Yeah.
You know, there's no downside.
And I am sure he would have reasons, like, probably, like, if you look at his first films, like, there's scenes in, like, adaptation, there's, like, a car wreck that I think about all the time because it's really important in Los Angeles. Like, when you pull out of your drive, like, someone pulls out of the drive and they get smoked.
Yes, sure.
And it's like, that is how you die in LA, right? But also because the way it's shot, it's so violent and scary. And it's like, yeah, he learned that scene. It's like, maybe it's not that important in the film, but it's really cool how good it is. And he learned that making commercials.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So like Greta Gerwig, like, it's like you go like, well, what? She's going to learn the mechanisms of like mega movie.
It's valuable.
You know what I mean? And yeah, it's valuable. That's a valuable tool when she goes on to make like the most mega art movie ever. Right?
Yeah. It's like a building. Yeah. It all feeds each other. It's like a building block kind of situation.
That's the hope.
Geoff, speaking of music syncs, I wanted to ask you, what high dollar things did you turn down back in the 90s when you were averse to selling out that you are now regretting?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, just like not answering the phone. I look at, oh my God. Like, I have like a crazy archive of like I keep everything, like, and I was going through it and like putting it away, like cleaning out the studio. And I'm like, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, like stuff like Apple calling me to come talk to their design studio and just not even replying. And I found like faxes from a woman. She was in, like Virgin, like it was like Virgin Music. Like she was like, we really want to, like it was someone from Virgin, like really just trying to get in touch with me. And that's like not a big deal, but just the fact that like there was just so much stuff I just didn't even respond to. Like,
but why?
I think that there's a benefit. Like, I've always sort of paced myself by being like sort of like in my own world. Mm-hmm. Like, so I have this like very natural pace, but I also know how much I can take. So I'm sort of like doing enough. And I think my brain like did a lot of editing. So there was a lot of stuff like opportunities maybe like I didn't take. But it was sort of for this purpose. Like, I feel like I don't have like a ton of, especially, I think I have more capacity now, but like, I just was sort of overwhelmed. Like I was like learning how to, I definitely feel like I spent a lot of time learning how to be like a human being, like way more. Like I look at young people now and they've like, all right, look at my daughter. I have a 20-year-old daughter and she's just so functional. Mm-hmm. And she's so like, I can ask her advice about like life advice. And she's like, yeah, don't talk to people like that and do that. And don't like be like this. And like that stuff, like I wasn't capable of. Yeah. And I mean, it's like, how does that relate to like turning down opportunities? But it was like, because I was sort of like too busy, like growing up, I feel like until I was 30.
Yeah.
Or even past that it was like, I wasn't really capable of taking on a sort of maybe a sort of like an art career that was more planned out or like deliberate, you know? Mm-hmm. So I'm sort of stuck with like a rambling, like feel my way, sort of way of like being who I am now. But
there's no wrong way. There's no wrong way or right way.
Things have worked out well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I mean, it's just at least it's like I think it's like building a tree house, right? It's like, oh, like bang, like, oh, I like to put my coffee cup. Like it's like the tree is like, you build around the tree. You don't like cut off limbs or anything. You build around the tree. You like when you want to like, oh, I need a place for my water bottle. You find a piece of wood and you like hammer it in and you put it there. And so you do end up with this like, you know, you don't end up with a Tadeo Endo beautiful, you know.
Yeah, sure. It works for you. It works for you. It works for you. Then that's all that matters. Geoff, thank you so much for joining us on How Long Gone. We really appreciate it. Yeah. And we'll take you.
It's an honor.
We'll take you over to Proof for a Gibraltar, you know, in the near future when everybody's back in LA.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Geoff, do you get free juice for life at the Juice?
I do.
You fucking better, right?
He's like, yeah, that's the fucking trade-off.
I will do a mural for free juice.
Noted. All of our entrepreneurs listening, Geoff will do a free mural.
Oh God.
Yeah. You guys let us know.
Can we edit that out? Actually.
Yeah.
I need to take that out. No, Geoff, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you soon. See you soon.
Yes. Talk soon.